Morning, Johnny, and thank you so much for finding time today to join us for this quick interview to understand a little bit more about what you do for Johnny Africa. My name is Lydia from lydiascapes.com. It's an adventure travel site focusing on climbing and outdoor travel. So for today, if you could just very briefly help us and the listeners to hear a bit more about yourself. Very quickly, in one or two sentences, share a bit more about where are you and what do you do?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lydia, for having me. My name is Johnny. I run the JohnnyAfrica blog. I started this blog about 10 years ago when I lived in South Africa, and it was always something that I wanted to do to create memories outside of Instagram and Facebook. And it kind of just started from something small, and then it kind of just turned into something more. And now it's something that I really enjoy doing, and something that I feel like it gives me a sense of purpose almost when I travel, to have a blog that I'll go back to and write about and kind of recount my experiences. So yeah, it's been a lot of learning experiences for this blog, but it's a passion project, and I think that's how it should be for everyone.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Yeah, so I've seen that you have been to so many destinations, and personally, some of these places are still on my bucket list. Can I ask, how do you choose a destination to explore? And what are some of the factors that makes a critical role for you to decide to go there?
I don't know if there's any specific criteria to choosing a place. I think, as people that like to travel like us, I mean, there's always things on your list, and to be honest, there's probably a lot of things that are not on your list.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very easy to come up with places you want to go. The question is, how do you get there, and how do you actually make it happen? But for me, I think it's just like, if I'm living somewhere like in South Africa, or if I'm living in Europe, I like to visit the places that are close by to me. Places that might be hard to get to if I no longer lived in those places. Yeah. Right. So when I was living in South Africa, I went to a lot of countries in that region. I mean, there's so many amazing, beautiful places that are probably very hard to get to unless you're flying out of Johannesburg. Some of these places are like, Madagascar, or like Mozambique. Going to Uganda or something like that, makes it a lot more easy to visit when you're in those areas. And I like to go to places that are warmer in general. I don't like cold weather so much. But obviously some places are a must visit. Like if you go to Norway or something, like kind of just have like Iceland or something, it's well worth going to those places because of how unique and beautiful it is. And it's okay to suck it up for like a few weeks just to be cold for that experience. Yeah.
It's funny because you mentioned Norway, and that's my bucket list country for this year. So my husband and I are planning to go there for a road trip, and we are kind of still debating what months to go because he doesn't like the cold like you, but I'm like I'm fine with the cold. I love it. So it's a very big factor, like you mentioned, the season, and like the preference of the kind of destinations. I get you. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, so since we're talking a bit more about the travel niche in in the blogging sphere, it's becoming more and more common for a lot of people to start a travel blog, and to stand out and have an authority in one aspect of travel is quite challenging. Sometimes it takes a while. So how did you personally, for JohnnyAfrica.com, how do you kind of establish and build your authority in the niche? What are some of the things that you did to get there?
Yeah, to be honest, when I started this blog, it was more of like a journal, I guess, like a diary. It was just kind of like recounting my experiences. I didn't actually even know what SEO was when I first started blogging. Um, and I definitely didn't have any aspirations of it becoming this like blog that actually gets like a decent amount of traffic. It was more just like, hey, I'm gonna write some stuff, I'm gonna share it to Facebook, and then have some friends read it, and it was only over time that I started looking at the stats, and then I'm like, who are all these people reading this blog? Because they're not my friends. I don't have that many friends, right? And I think at some point, maybe a few years after I started the blog, maybe like 3 years after I started the blog, I started learning more about how to write more concisely, how to target keywords, how to optimize how you present on Google, right? And because like at the end of the day, 90% of travel bloggers, their main traffic source is probably from Google, right? And so you're essentially blogging. Like if you want to make traffic and if you want to earn money, like you're essentially in the Google business, right? You're in the search business. You're not in the blogging business. You're in the search. You're like in the search business. And I think, for me, it was a lot of trial and error to see what worked and what didn't work. And to be honest, I definitely am not the expert at keywords research and all that stuff. Like there's definitely people that do it much better than I do. But I just think for me, the purpose of the blog is to write about things that I'm really interested and passionate about. Because if you're not interested in these things, you're not going to write good content and you're not going to want to do it. And because the thing is, like, if all you're doing is going on like Moz or SEMrush or something and looking for good keywords to target and like long tail keywords, short term tail keywords, if you're looking at if that's all you're doing, like you're probably not going to last that long because you're just going to get bored and not want to do it. So for me, like the most important thing is that like this is something that you really like doing, and even if you weren't making money, it's something you would still like to do. And so that's number one. And number two is writing, like following like a good site structure, like with good headings, and very concise but detailed, very detailed, but so like talks about the point and does not deviate too much. And I think like writing in a way that is not overly complicated is important, and just also writing as much content as you can.
Okay.
I think a lot of people like I mean I've read so much in Google about does Google like longer posts or shorter posts?
Yeah.
But my experience, like there's definitely a correlation between longer content and higher rankings. Not always the case, but I think there's some correlation there to be had. So I like to write content that's just long and detailed, but also very but it has to be like good content. I mean, because they always talk about good content. Like you have to write stuff that's like useful and helpful for the reader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned two things earlier, right? So one thing is you write long, good content that provides value. At the same time, to be straight to the point too. I think you mentioned something along the lines of like don't deviate too far, like answer it straight to the point. So long content and being direct and consistent, like it's a challenge sometimes when you write itineraries or like a general topic. How do you kind of figure that out?
I like to make an outline first of like how I'm going to write a post, especially a longer one. Like you have to just have an outline of your H2 headings, your H3 headings, and then have like a plan on how you're going to tackle it. And what's funny is I've actually never talked about these things out loud before, right?
Okay.
It's like so me saying it for the first, like this is like me saying it out loud for the first time. So I'm kind of also it's also kind of strange for me to like talk about this out loud. But yeah, so I think you need to have a good outline and then just follow that outline.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things you can actually research from like SEMrush.
Mhm.
Like they actually will tell you like, these are the headings that you should target and all the stuff. I mean, I don't know if like all that stuff is actually legit. I can't say for certain if it's actually like, do this and for sure Google's going to rank you. Because at the end of the day, you just never know what's going to rank and what's not going to rank. And you just have to do your best and provide, whatever you can to get to that top to get to that top 10 list.
Yes, right. Sorry, go on.
And also, I think, funny enough, actually, I have a lot of travel posts, but most of like the posts that I've done the most well in my blog are actually not most of the travel posts. It's actually a lot of posts that I've written about spreadsheets. Funny enough, right? And I haven't told many people, but yeah, it's like all these like spreadsheets that I've created for like your travel itinerary, your writing, recording your stock trades, or like all these like random spreadsheets that I created. Those are actually the posts that I get the most traffic in, which is really surprising. So you just never know, right? You never know.
And these are probably not like super long articles, right? But they're very useful and informative. So it gets to what people are looking for.
The thing is, these posts, they're called evergreen posts, right? Because they're the ones that are always going to be on Google, and they're kind of like a gateway to the rest of your blog because that's how most people will arrive there.
Yeah.
And so in those posts that get the most traffic, that's where you can also have links to other posts that might not get as much traffic, and it's a good way to like send traffic to those areas. If you create on those really nice posts that like like I have like a post that talks about like a travel spreadsheet itinerary like spreadsheet that I made, and in that post I also talk about like, I also have this spreadsheet that I use to budget. Spreadsheet that I use to track my stock portfolio. So someone who is wanting to find a travel itinerary spreadsheet, they might also think like, I also trade stocks and I've also never thought about recording them on a spreadsheet, but maybe I'll do that now. So they'll click on that link, and then it kind of like adds so you get more views in that way.
Very good tip there. So know what are the articles that you're ranking for, and then work on extending and linking from that like strong article to other relevant ones, because it is good in the eyes of Google, and also the users appreciate it as well.
Definitely.
Okay, so we were talking a bit about growth, right? You were saying you were like kind of writing great content and seeing that it's growing steadily, and indeed we cannot predict what Google does. At the same time, I see that your traffic for your website, JohnnyAfrica.com, has been growing steadily despite of all of Google's algorithm changes. You didn't get hit too hard for affiliate or anything specific. So what do you do? What do you think you did well, or that could lead to you kind of not getting affected by Google's penalties?
I've also thought about this many times, because I think like most bloggers, you're almost just like counting down the days where you just get the axe from the hammer from Google. But especially like in the last few years, it seems like Google's updates have just become more and more vicious and more common. And I'm on these Facebook groups, these like for my advertising network, that they're just talking about, we had this huge update in October and then I lost like 80% of my traffic. So I read so many these stories, and I think it's a very terrifying thing to read about, right? And so I think for me, it's like you can't control what Google does. Like, you have no idea, you have no insight into what they're thinking and what like type of changes they're going to make. So I think you can't control it as much. You can only control what you can control, which is just creating content and optimizing the content that you already have. And I think sometimes you're going to get lucky, and sometimes you're just going to get screwed. Like, that's just how it is, I think. And you just have to hope that the content that you have provided is seen by Google as helpful enough to maintain your rankings. And I think, like, I've also gotten hit before. It's not like, I definitely have gotten hit before, but also I've gotten what's the opposite word? I've gotten boosted as well by some of these updates, and so you just never know. But I look at my stats a lot, and there's always like a few posts that are consistently ranked high no matter what Google does. And I think having that evergreen content is very important, because those are kind of like your anchor. Like, they're always going to carry you, and whatever Google does in their algorithm changes will just it's just going to happen. So you can't think about it too much, and just gotta like keep writing like what you can.
It's true. If you live out of fear of trying to anticipate what Google does, that's not the way to go as well, right? And at the same time, you mentioned that you have been boosted by Google in their algorithm change, or some articles still get that good traffic. What kind of articles are these? Like, do you see that there are certain reasons why they still rank? Like you conjured up certain reasons?
I think there's just not as many good alternatives to some of these posts that rank really high. This goes back to keyword research, right? Because you need to also know what keywords to target, I guess. And because there's I just went to Sri Lanka, right? I'll write some posts about Sri Lanka and an itinerary and talking about the train ride and all the standard stuff that you do in Sri Lanka. But like, if you go on Google, there's probably like hundreds of people writing about this stuff, right?
Yep.
And for you to compete with some of these other blogs, like you're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And I think but the thing is, like, you should still do it, because that's the whole reason you're travel blogging, right? Like, you don't just be like, there's so many people writing about Sri Lanka, like, I'm just gonna not write anything. Like, that's also not a good attitude to have. But the thing is, there are some keywords that are probably easier to target than others, and I think being able to find those is like probably the most difficult part of blogging for money, to make money.
Exactly.
And
you're right. Like, it's really about finding that opportunity gap, right? Where the words are unique and it's evergreen. And you mentioned you use platforms like SEMrush, am I right? Like, any specific one that you use the most?
Actually, I used to use SEMrush a lot, but then I just stopped paying for it. I didn't want to pay for it anymore.
Okay.
So
I get you.
Yeah, and I think and there's always something you're learning as well. And people have like different ways of doing things, but I just found myself constantly looking for keywords when I was using SEMrush, and I'm just like, no, this is not it's not fun, right? Because you feel like running a business, which you are, obviously, but I never started this blog to make money, because I'm not like other travel bloggers where it's their only source of income, right? and because like for other travel bloggers who are traveling full time and they depend on this income, then it's different because you are essentially running a business and you need to cater to what the business needs. Whereas for me, it's like I have my other side of things that I do, which is my investments, trading, financial management. So for the blog, it's more just like I like to write. I like to write about my travels. I do like to see that I get a lot of traffic, and any money you make is just kind of like a cherry on the top.
See.
Because I feel like getting traffic is kind of like almost like a validation that you've done something right.
Yeah. So you don't put monetizing as a very high priority. Like, do you see it? Like a lot of people want to do things like they do advertising on it with ads, ad buys, or banner ads. Do you have a lot of these ways that you want to monetize your site?
Yeah, I do. I have I have ads. Obviously, I think everyone has ads in some form. I use the Zoic, which I'm trying to get out of. Like, I don't really like them anymore, and I'm trying to. I actually got approved for Mediavine, so I'm
nice. Congratulations! Yeah.
To go over there, but I have to like cancel this contract that I'm with, because like that's how Zoic sucks you in. So ads obviously are probably one of the main ways to make money.
Yeah.
For me, I also have like a lot of travel planning and like consulting that I do, which is actually stemmed from a few posts that I wrote about how to plan like a honeymoon to South Africa, or how to plan a trip to Greece and stuff. And like in those posts, I'll actually write like, hey, these are trips that I plan for other people. I can also do this as a service for you if you like. And then so I do that quite regularly, consulting with couples to plan their trips, and that kind of just like started out of nowhere, and it kind of just picked up, and it's and I get requests every one or like 2 or 3 requests a month to help plan trips, and then I just I'll work with them, and I have charged like a flat consulting fee type of thing, and then a lot of times they'll refer me to their friends, or it kind of snowballs from there. So that's another way that I make money. But again, that stems from the blog and the SEO that the blog has, right? Yes. Because how people find me is that they'll look for South Africa honeymoon itinerary, and they'll find my blog post, read it, and they'll be like, oh, I really liked this trip that Johnny planned, so I'm gonna go hit him up too. And then also like affiliate programs, like booking. Like I make some money from booking, but it's not that much, and I find it really annoying to like constantly link to hotels and get. I'm not really diligent about it. I know there's other bloggers out there that they will have 20 links to hotels and guest houses of various price ranges, but for me it just takes too much time. And I'm probably leaving money on the table by not doing it, but I just can't be bothered.
Got it. Okay. So the main affiliate you do is book hotels affiliate. You don't do any other Amazon or?
I have Amazon, but the thing is, like, I don't advertise enough stuff. Like I have this post that I had about best mirrorless cameras for travel, and I think I made enough of that post from Amazon, but it wasn't really that much. I have also affiliate programs with like Get Your Guide, so like booking trips and stuff. And they actually sent me before. They actually like went through my site, gave me a whole list of like the posts that I should add links to. Right, so they actually like did a lot of the stuff for me. I didn't really make that much money with them, so I'm kind of just like I don't really bother with that. And I get requests from people all the time to join their affiliate program, and I'm just like, no, thanks.
Yeah.
And also, like final one is like sponsored posts, sponsored. Like I think a lot of bloggers get requests from people to like to build links to help, like, you know, pretty much these sketchy guys that come in and want you to like want to buy a link from your website, right? So and like I never really knew what the proper pricing was and how to like what to actually charge people, but I have done some of that stuff as well. And I think every blogger has. They might not say they have, but they definitely have. And and so I have a lot of not a lot, but like, you know, some sponsored content, and then I'll charge people, you know, X amount of dollars per link.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, so honestly and candidly. And indeed, I think these are like the different avenues for people who are into like blogging, who are trying to make it grow and monetize it. Yeah, they dabble in all these areas. And it's really also about, like, you know, some of these sites that you do a sponsored post with, you also need to see whether it benefits, or the link to that site can hit you in exchange. If it's a website that has been blacklisted on Google, for example, right? So you have to be careful. Yeah. Okay. I'm mindful of the time, so I actually have one or two last questions before. Okay. So, you know, I see that, you know, you run JohnnyAfrica as more or less a one-man show, right? And there's so many things that you need to do when it comes to managing the website. I understand. Okay. I used to run Lydiascapes all by myself. From writing to SEO to keyword research, you know, things like that. So what do you say is a priority to kind of keep it growing, to kind of make it sustainable? Because it's one thing to do passion, but you really need, you know, people get to a point they want to make enough money from it to justify what they are doing. So how do you kind of prioritize things to maintain the website?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think not losing the drive is probably one of the main things. Because I think a lot of people, like, they you know, they work on this thing a lot, and maybe they lose interest, or you know, life changes or whatever. And I think for me, it's always something that like I know that I've created on my own, and I you know, want to see it grow, and I want to see it do well. So I think knowing that it's your own baby type of thing, and treating it like it's like a special project is very helpful for that mindset to kind of like help you keep going. And but I think, again, like I you know, I don't depend on it, so for me it's very easy to kind of like see this as like, hey, if I get hit by Google and I don't make as much money, like, you know, it's not the end of the world, right? I'm going to wait it out, keep making content the way I can, and hopefully eventually, like, you know, the traffic will come back from maybe another Google update.
So this is a very good point, right? Like, it's really not about like thinking that this is everything you do, you kind of worry about whether it's going to affect your traffic and all. So if, for example, for a blogger who is listening to this video and they are depending on this for their main income, is there one tip or one thing that you have employed in your own lifestyle to kind of led to where you kept your website growing consistently? There's one advice you can give to people, what would it be? It's a very difficult question, I know. Sorry.
No, I was thinking, like, if I have anything clever to say. I mean, to be honest, I always just, like, every time I advise, like, if someone comes to me and they're like, hey, like, how did you make money off of this? Like, you know, how do you do this? And I the first thing I say is, like, look, don't do this just because you want to make money, right? And I think a lot of bloggers will say that, right? Because I think a lot of bloggers will say that, like, you know, just because you know how to create a click a few buttons to create a WordPress site and add a few articles doesn't mean that you're always going to make money. And I think for me was understanding that, and then the money eventually came, and now that it's consistent, like stable-ish. Now I can focus on just writing content and making and growing the traffic of the blog. So I think it's don't go into it with the thought of like I'm just going to make money. Go into it with the fact that like, hey, this is something I'm interested in. I'm going to pursue it, and then once the money comes, then then you can focus on keeping the passion alive and just continuing to come up with new ideas. And yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of times that I am not traveling for a while, and then I kind of like run out of things to write about. Because I'm like, okay, well, if I'm not traveling, like, I really don't have anything to say, and that's okay too, right? Because it's not, you don't have to churn out content every day. You're not like a content factory, and so it's like it's okay to kind of like do things on your own time, and just like take it slow, because at the end of the day, the most important thing I think is just to like maintain that interest for your blog, right? And so hopefully that helps. I'm not sure if that was
it's a very good reminder, honestly, that at the end of the day, you really need to be passionate about what you're writing. If not, you may try to trick the algorithm all you want, but if it's not written with interest and useful advice, then obviously the readers are also going to be keen. So
I've actually tried to come up with ideas for like a new website. Like I was like, because I read about how some of these people have like, I don't know, 5 websites that they're maintaining, and I'm just kind of like, I'm thinking like, what kind of website could I create? Like a new website that I could create that I could even build, like that I have enough knowledge, enough interest in to build. And like I always struggle with coming up with ideas because I just don't really know what else to make a website about. And I think that's a sign for me to say like, look, if you start another website, like it's a good chance that you might not succeed, right? Because you're just going to be writing about nothing, and you're probably just mostly going to use keyword research and just turn into a keyword research job.
That's a very good final note, right? Because at the end of the day, are you writing purely for like based on keyword research telling you, or to a certain extent what you're doing, you still find joy in sharing things that you personally want to write about and people are interested in. So it's a good reminder even for me, having run my website for like over 10 years. Like it's also really about writing things that you're passionate about, because that's what people are looking for, and we need to remember it's for people, not only for Google, right?
Exactly. I mean, sadly, Google is the way that people find out about it. So you do. So it's like you're in both businesses, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Thank you so much, Johnny, for sharing your insights and giving a good overview of how you started. What are some of the things that you really focus on, and the last ending note, in fact, about really like not really finding a balance between doing it for passion as well as enjoying the process, not purely for making money. So thank you for your sharing. And for those who are interested to find out more about JohnnyAfrica, he's got a very exciting website, a lot of interesting content, especially about Africa. I have been to South Africa, but I've not been to the region around. So do check out his site. And Johnny, I hope to meet you again in Singapore when I swing by again next time around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Right. So thank you so much. And take care, and we talk to you again real soon. Yeah. Thank you.